Today I'm talking about tips for moving out of state, and I'm starting right now. If this is your first time visiting my channel, my name is Carrie Jonicus and I'm a realtor in Chicago's southwest suburbs. Please consider hitting the subscribe button down below and the notification bell to be notified of any new videos that I post. I post new videos every Monday, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. So today I'm here with my friend Susan, and we are talking about tips for moving out of state. In my area, I've had a lot of people moving out. I live in the Chicagoland area, and a lot of people are moving to Tennessee. So we wanted to have a quick conversation, talk about tips for moving out of state. So let's get started.
This is Susan Thetford, and I want to thank you for joining me again. I have brought on a guest with mine, Carrie Jonicus. I said it right the first time, Carrie.
You did say it right the first time.
I did.
Jonicus.
From the Chicagoland area. And I wanted to bring her on because she and I are both realtors, lifelong realtors, and belong to a group where we've gotten to know each other really well. And I really admire the work that she does. And I see that on a continual basis. She and I were talking about what trends are happening within our particular areas. And in her Chicagoland area, she's got a lot of people moving out, and we in Nashville know that we have a lot of people moving here. So I thought it would be a great topic is to give some tips for moving out of state. Carrie, thanks for being here. So as I said, we were talking about the trends that are going on in our areas, and you were telling me a little about your Chicago area. Tell me what's going on there.
Yeah, so definitely the trend right now is that people are moving out. A lot of talk is, the taxes are too high, or just that they want to go to a warmer climate. People are moving out. They're not moving as much in. So in just the last 6 months, I've had, 5 people that I knew of that have moved out of state to the Tennessee area, actually. Yes, that's where they're all going, which brought us to our conversation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about some of the basic tips. I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but what are some of the basic things when somebody tells you, Carrie, we're out of here, we're gone? What are some advisory tips that you give them to make it be a really smooth transition?
Definitely number one is going to be do your research. So a lot of times I find that buyers, when they're wanting to move, they go onto, Zillow, Realtor.com, and they look for a house that they like and they want to go see it. Well, when you're moving out of state, you can't necessarily do that. You have to research the area. You have to know, do you want to be near the downtown area? Do you, are you planning on working in the downtown area and you need to be close to that? You don't want to find a house that you love that's 2.5 hours away. Depending on the area. So doing your research yourself, but also speaking to a professional who knows the area really well is very, very important. Very important.
Totally agree. I think that it's interesting because, say, you're in Chicago. I think you all have rapid transit. That's a big difference that people don't even necessarily think of. If you're used to coming from an area that has rapid transit and subways, you really kind of don't think twice about being able to get anywhere, everywhere quickly. And moving to Nashville, we don't have that. You need a car. So I agree with you totally. And, I started even a little bit more basic, which is a long, long conversation about, all right, what is it that you want your new life to be in this new city? What, what phase of life are you in? Is schools important? Is that not? What do you like to do for recreation? How often do you want to be in the city to go to have live music? I mean, in the fantasy world of your new city, what does that life look like? And that's going to really tell a whole lot of, where to begin the whole search. Don't you agree?
I agree. The next step before moving any further too is definitely to look at a cost of living calculator. Compare where you're living now to where you're going to go. I often have people who come to me and say, well, I'm considering, say 3 or 4 different states. Well, you kind of have to know which state you're going to move to. So, what helps is looking at that cost of living calculator. Maybe you have to make, double the amount that you are making currently in order to live in a house where you want to move, in the state that you want to move. And that might not be possible for the occupation that you have. So it's definitely important to look at that cost of living. How much are your groceries going to cost there as opposed to here? How much money do you need to make? It's really important.
I love that you said that. And it is really an eye opener too, as to when someone's getting a job opportunity and they're looking at that offer, there's really no way of knowing whether that's a good offer until you really have done that comparison that you just mentioned between transportation, healthcare, food, lodging, utilities. Those are big differences. And I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, definitely. It's super important. Mm-hmm. Also, putting some money aside is really important. Now, moving itself, there's closing costs. It's expensive. Obviously, there's things that we can do as far as loan programs to help with that. But having additional funds for moving out of state is really important, because they say that the average on U.S. News, it says it's about $5,300. And I'd say for the folks that I know that have moved out, it was between $5,000 and $6,000 to do an out-of-state move, between your moving costs and, storing the pods and getting it there. So it's definitely something that you should consider is, start putting some money aside before you make that final decision to move.
I feel sure you also make the suggestion of go visit, go spend some time there, not as a tourist. I've had an awful lot of people who've been here to Nashville as a tourist. They did all the wonderful, fun, touristy things, which I got to say, very few Nashvillians have been to the Country Music Hall of Fame more than once or twice. We don't live that way.
Right.
So you want to visit a city in the way that you're going to live in that city. And I feel sure that part of that budgeting that you mentioned is take some time and go stay there for a little bit.
Exactly. Get to know your area, where, do your trip from where you think that you're going to work. If you're going to live in a suburb and you want to go downtown, take that trip and drive it,
right.
And do it during the week time. Do it during the time that you probably were going to go to work, so you can see what that commute time really looks like.
Right. And the same thing for the neighborhoods. Maybe once you have narrowed down communities that you want to be in, then you've got little subdivisions or neighborhoods. I always say, go drive down that neighborhood, spend some time there on a weekend, see how many cars are parked on the street, see what it's like to live in each one of these places on a daily basis. If church or whatever your recreational things is that you enjoy doing, that's part of life. And if you have to drive 30 minutes to get to a workout facility, you're probably not going to do that workout.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How many people do you have who, when you first talk to them, they suddenly start sending you 20, 30 different houses and say, these all look great? I mean, let's talk about that.
Yeah. They always start with sending me properties. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, wait, first we have to have a conversation. We have to go step back. We have to go back to that research and talk and have a long conversation before we just start looking at properties. So we make sure that it's the right fit. Because both you and I aren't in it for just that buck. We want to make sure that they're making a sound move. It's not about, just getting into any house. Certainly, I could go show you those 30 houses, but is it the right house? I don't want you to move in and then a year from now, call me and say, Carrie, I need to sell my house. I don't want that, because in most cases, you're going to lose money having to sell that quickly. In my area, you would lose money, basically.
Well, be angry with you, the realtor, or you, the advisor, who, didn't slow walk it. Now, sometimes we can't help it, but I think it all goes back to that very first long conversation. What does your family look like? What do you want to do? What does your life want to look like when you move to this city? In the fantasy world of what the perfect place would be, what does that look like for you? And then we, as people who know our city, can pinpoint neighborhoods. If someone wants to be near water and that's their be all end all, I've got water, but it's not downtown Nashville. Right. And those, each neighborhood, each community, each suburb has its own flavor. And you really got to figure out what's going to make somebody happy and help them walk through that. It's their decision, but help them see those things.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad you brought up that cost of living, because I've had so many people not really have gone to see that.
Right.
And that's really super important. What do you have any kind of final tips? What that you think that we've left out? I mean, I know this sounds so basic, but like everything, you do have to start very back in the beginning and basic, and then you build into the final decisions.
Yeah, I still, when people come to me and they're moving out of state, they still say, what do I do first? I'm not really sure what to do first. So this really can be of great help if anyone is considering moving out of state, that, here's where you got to start. This will keep things very basic, and this is your best effort to being in a home long term, as opposed to just jumping the gun, go buy something from, whoever you see online. Do your research, make sure that you're talking to a qualified professional who knows the area.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I love, again, back to social media. I love the fact that 20 years ago, if I needed to refer somebody maybe to Chicago, I would go to some of the real estate association institutes, where you've got people who've taken the courses, but you really don't know anything about them. I mean, through social media, to meet people, to watch what they do on a daily basis, to see how much good information they give out, to see their knowledge and their credibility. It makes me so comfortable to recommend someone to Carrie in the Chicagoland area, and Kim over in New England. So we as realtors take so much responsibility for helping advise people. I love the fact that I have people that I can recommend in every area, and Carrie is that person over in the Chicago area.
Thank you. And the same goes, in the Nashville area, you're my go-to girl. And, it is great. I'm so grateful for the group that we have, that basically any state, we have someone that, not that we just know their name. We're actually familiar with how they do business, and we're comfortable with that. And we would refer our family members to that person. And that says a lot.
Well, when it's the most important thing that most people do in their life is buying and selling a home, and there's emotional, putting that whole team together is really, really key. So, Carrie, thanks again so much for being here with us. And I'll put your contact information here on my Facebook page everywhere, so that people know how to reach you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it. If you're considering moving out of state and you're not sure where to start, click the link in the description box down below, which will email you a copy of my relocation guide. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.